It's time to wake up.
Welcome to Ask the Guru. I'm J. Rob, the Guru of Peace, and also the OG of Protein. I'm so glad you're here. If you want to ask your own questions, go to the comment section after this video and leave a question or a comment or a thought or anything you'd like. We'd love to hear from you. Today I've got a question that was left in the comment section, and it was this: what are your thoughts on probiotics? Miracle workers or a problem child? Probiotics. Well, let me first say that probiotics are supplements that you take or foods that you consume that supposedly are pro-life or support life. Probiotics, pro-life, is that what that means. Antibiotics are anti-life, meaning if you take an antibiotic, it actually kills bacteria. These are probiotics. They support bacteria, or they, in this case, they are bacteria. So if you eat fermented foods such as sauerkraut, fresh homemade pickles, homemade sauerkraut, not store-bought, kimchi, any fermented fruit or vegetable that's not pasteurized, it will contain live bacteria. Well, now they've created supplements in capsules, powder forms, and so on that are probiotics that contain live bacteria that are many times or supposedly made up of the bacteria that can be found in the human colon, the intestines. I don't mean all the intestines, just the colon primarily is where these bacteria live. Sure, some of the bacteria is in your mouth and throughout your intestinal alimentary canals, but in general, all of this bacteria lives in your colon. It should remain in the colon. Your colon is like your septic tank. You eat foods, the food debris is pushed through the body, that you absorb the nutrients, the energy, what you need out of it, the macronutrients, the micronutrients, everything else, and then the debris is left over, and then the colon bacteria ferment and actually utilize for food the leftovers. If that's a little bit of sugar or fiber or something, that's what they feed on. They love that kind of stuff. So if you're taking a probiotic, the assumption is, or the way that they're marketed, is you take the supplement in, and they've now, this didn't used to be the factor, but they're enteric coated, so you can actually take it, and it supposedly will not open until it reaches your colon. I don't think that's accurate. I think they open up in your small intestine and sometimes your stomach, because you can enteric coat something, but it's only for so long before stomach acid breaks it down. Second part is they can be killed off pretty easily by stomach acid, so they better be strongly enteric coated. There's no way that you can guarantee that they're going to make it to your colon. So that's the first thing that I question. Will a probiotic actually make it to your colon? And if they don't, where do they open up generally? In your small intestine. Your small intestine is about 21 feet long. Your large intestine, which is below it, is about 5 feet long. It's bigger, it's thicker, but it's shorter. So your small intestine, which is after your stomach, goes to the small intestine and it weaves through. That's where you finish digestion and absorption of your food. That's its job. So if you open up, if you take a probiotic supplement or even eat a probiotic, sauerkraut or something like that, you have bacteria going into your stomach. Bacteria should not be in your stomach, and then it goes into your small intestine. It should not be in your small intestine. When it hits your small intestine, guess what? It could have a feeding frenzy. Why? Because that's where you've got your carbohydrate and fibers from the foods you consume, not just the leftovers that get pushed to the colon. So they're getting overfed instantly. So they're bacteria just waiting for food, and you've got food there. So boom, there they are. You take a probiotic with food. What's that bacteria going to do with the food if it's carbohydrate? If it's meat or fat, probably not. But if it's carbohydrate or fiber, it's going to eat it. It's going to consume it. So the first thing that happens if you're on probiotics, and I've personally experienced this, and I know my wife has too, you have all kinds of problems because you start getting bloated. Why do you get bloated? Because bacteria creates gas. When bacteria breaks down sugars, carbohydrate, it creates gas. 30 grams of carbohydrate can create a liter of gas. A liter of gas, just think that'd be like the size of a giant Coke bottle, a giant quart Coke bottle or whatever. So you're going, wow, that's a lot of gas from just that amount of carbohydrate. Well, the bacteria is feeding on that. If the bacteria can get to your colon, fine, but is it going to? No. What if it stops halfway down and then opens up? You're still going to be feeding what? You're going to be feeding it with all the food that you're eating. If you had potatoes, if you had fruit, if you had pasta, they feed on that. They love it. That's their food. That's their primary food. So they're used to eating less food in your colon. That's the key to get there. If they open up in your small intestine, you develop something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. That's not something you want. It makes you bloated and gassy, and it either does two things. It creates methane gas or hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas will speed up your bowels and give you like loose bowels and perhaps diarrhea. A lot of people have that. If it's methane, it actually slows down peristaltic action of the small intestine and even the stomach. It slows these things down, and it reverses the order of peristaltic action. Peristaltic action like a snake pushing things down. In this case, it goes reverse, back up. Now you get what? Heartburn, burping, then you go, what was that? Why? It's because the gases are moving upward instead of outward. And that happens a lot. Then suddenly you have bloat. Now, you haven't put on very much weight, but your belly's all bloated out. What's that? That's SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Probiotics can cause that. There's a third part that's a real troublemaker when you do probiotics or have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and that is having systemic acidosis. Systemic acidosis is caused by, in this case, bacteria in mass quantity feeding on carbohydrate, creating gas bloat. That gas is acidic. That means your body now has to take that acid and dilute it down, or alkalize it down and get it out of your body through your kidneys. So when you have systemic acidosis, you start breathing more, which could create anxiety. I think in a past Ask the Guru, I talked about that. Rapid breathing to alkalize your system can create anxiety. It's not what you want. You feel unsettled, you feel bloated, you feel miserable. This is all caused by bacteria being in your small intestine. If you eat too much fermented food, it could cause that. Some people, it doesn't bother them. Some people, they sweep things through. They must have a good constitution. Other people's not, and I'm one of them. I've had SIBO, and I've had SIFO, which is small intestinal fungus overgrowth. So those are not something you want. Probiotics can cause that. SIFO is something I'll talk about in another episode. But for today, be careful with those probiotics. I do not suggest them at all. I suggest eating good natural foods. Don't overdo the fiber either, and you'll have a wonderful life. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to leave a comment for me, subscribe, and like, because we love you out there. Not just like you, we love you. Thank you so much, and hang loose.
Get the chill on, hang loose.